Well, I hope you find it.
I'm from Minnesota, so this was my first job. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. And he's moving closer to that. Yeah, North Carolina.
Or let me grab it.
It's like a few months too early. Yeah, amazing story.
You know, we've been starting in about 6-7 minutes, so that's when we'll get ready to go.
Thank you.
Say hello when in California. It's all right, no, please. You just wave. Just wave and say hi. How are you, buddy? Welcome north. Yeah. So goes. Was that right?
last white balancer, mic check.
No.
We'll give you just a little bit of information on that. So the suspect that has been identified by our Cooney County Coroner's Office, Coroner Duke Johnson there, has been identified as Wes Val Rowley, date of birth of May 1st, 2005. As of right now, and this is all very, very preliminary, we've had a lot of resources at the crime scene. We've been working through the night, so many of these facts are subject to change. We believe that Rowley has prior residence in California, Arizona, and Idaho. We believe he was born in California. The Cooney County Sheriff's Office and Coeur d'Alene Police Department, we've had 5 interactions with Rowley. And of those 5 interactions, we've had 3, Coeur d'Alene Police had 2. They're very, very minor in nature. They had to do with more trespassing. He was trespassing at a location. He was asked to leave and he cooperated. We had some welfare checks on Rowley, and very, very minor. We don't show any criminal history for Rowley. We do have some social media presence for for Rowley. Find it disgusting to call him a Mr., but we don't have any much to go on. Here's some of his social media postings that were recently removed from social media. I believe this one was Instagram. And we have some copies of this that Lieutenant Mark Ellis will distribute. where we're at with the crime scene. The crime scene is active. We still have the suspect's vehicle that is up down an embankment of the mountain. Deputies who responded on scene to protect life and engage the suspect thought it would be in their best interest to get rid of what they thought was Rowley's vehicle. So they had the frame of mind to push it over the side so he couldn't come around and get in that vehicle and flee. So we have not been able to find any manifesto. We have not been able to inventory the vehicle, although people that have seen the vehicle do believe it appeared as if he was living in the vehicle. There was a lot of debris that's in the vehicle, so that's all we have on that. Like I said again, we have not verified or found any manifesto. We have not done an inventory of that vehicle. I'd like to give you an update on the fire that we believe Rowley started. Rowley was found to be in possession of a flint starter, and we believe that was his method for starting the fire. That eventually led to firefighters responding. So as of right now, the fire is at 26 acres. It has not grown. It is a slow progress because it's very difficult terrain to get assets, ground assets up there. Idaho Department of Lands is putting a lot of water on it from aerial supports, so that's going rather well. They believe they'll have a fire line around it by dark tonight. There are no structures that are threatened. Again, I'd like to say that last night about 11 p.m. we did receive information that an individual jumped from Veterans Bridge. That is not related to this situation whatsoever. We don't find any nexus to the murdering of the two firefighters and injuring of one. Now we have some of our incident commander who was here last night. That was the incident command of the scene. We have some of our SWAT operators that were here last night, and we had about 27 containment points on this mountain. And just to give you an idea, when you're setting up a containment in an urban setting, you might have 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks that you're setting up a containment on. But when you are setting up on a mountain, that just provides a lot more difficult dynamics than if it were a city block. So we, to the 27 containment points, we had 2, 3, 4 officers per containment point. And then we have a primary containment point where we believe the suspect is. And then we have a secondary containment point. And we absolutely utilized every resource that responded to the command post. And I do have the incident commander from last night if there's any questions. Kevin and Jeremy Heil, Kevin Smart, can you come up here just to be here just in case somebody has any questions? And
Coming up, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
You mentioned that there was no fire record. Are you talking specifically in Idaho, or is this also for California and Arizona?
at this time, we can't locate a criminal record for this individual. We've had interactions with him, but we don't find a criminal record with him. Also, we don't find that there's any nexus to any Islamic Jihad, which is also being disseminated on social media. We don't find that there's a nexus to that either.
Sure. Are you taking questions?
Yes, we're going to take questions.
Alex with the spokesman review. So are we clear, did the suspect die by suicide or was he shot by police? Do you know that
It appears that he shot himself. Yes.
Do you know if he was stockpiling weapons up there, or why he was on the
We're-
mountain specifically? One gun, multiple guns?
We have information that he at one time wanted to be a firefighter. So we don't know if there's a nexus to that desire and what happened yesterday, but there is information that we've received that he at one time wanted to be a firefighter. So we're still processing the scene. It's going to take a few days to do that, especially with the current fire that's there. So, John?
Sheriff, had you had any communication with the fire district about a potential job there?
We have checked some of the fire entities here, and we have not located where he had either put in an application or put in some sort of a interest form. We have not found that yet. So that, yeah, we have not found that.
One more question here. There's supposed to be a video on Instagram. Was this posted right before the ambush?
Well, it was discovered right before, but I don't know how long it had been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any indication of the motive?
Yeah, no, we don't have any indication of any motive at this time. And we, certainly we will continue to investigate that, but obviously we go on intent, and so, but we will certainly find out, or if there's any evidence to believe that there was a motive, we will do that. And I think an inventory of the vehicle would be a good place to start.
Do you think his desire to potentially become a firefighter is part of this?
We just don't know. Yeah, we just don't know. The gentleman.
These firearms, has that been determined yet? If
What?
these were his firearms that were used, or were they someone else's?
Has not been determined yet. Lady in the green?
Sheriff Cody Proctor with French 2 News. You mentioned that he had had interactions before with law enforcement, but had he had interactions before with firefighters?
We did not check to see if he had any interaction with firefighters. We do know that he did contact the firefighters when they came on scene, and there was a discussion. So, so we're still in the process of investigating that part of it. Gentleman in the blue in the back.
Sheriff, I'm Kirk Morgate. So talk to me about, why you're sharing these instrument posts. Talk to us, what does it look like when you're looking at this and what it symbolizes to the department?
Well, we're trying to collect any and all information, and those social media posts are what we call open source information. So this is all in an effort to find out intent, to find out if there was any other, if there was a motive or whatever the case may be. But
And another question, we had some people that live in the area of the evacuation zone last night, or the shelter in place. They said they didn't get a phone call, they didn't get a text. How does your system work? Was there a text that went out, or how did you let people know?
yes, absolutely. Part of our Kootenai alerts system, we sent out a text, I believe, a 5-mile radius, and I encourage people who live or frequent the area to sign up for Kootenai alerts. So,
So that's an opt-in service?
well, yes, yep. The gentleman in the blue.
Sure. The welfare checks that you guys initiated,
Yep.
were they given by a relative, a parent calling you to check on him, or are they concerned about his mental health?
No, it was generally a reporting party who called and saw a vehicle that was either parked near their property or on their property. One was a restaurant where he appeared to be residing at. He was asked to leave and he complied. So none of them that we have at this time were called in from a relative. They were called in from a property owner or passerby. The gentleman there in the...
Sheriff, can you describe the weapon that you found next to?
It appears right now we have a shotgun that was used, but we're still processing the scene.
So obviously a shotgun is not a sniper weapon.
Correct.
Do you know what kind of weapon that was?
Well, we're still processing the scene, but let me kind of set the scene for everybody. When you're in a rural area and you're heavily treed, heavily brushed, and when you're taking fire, then it just adds a whole different dynamic to the situation. So what was reported by people on scene, by peace officers on scene, that they believed they were taking sniper fire, yes. And that's where that is. Lady in the black.
Hi, was he a suspect before you found him, or did you not identify him until after you found his remains?
Can you give me that first part again?
Was he a suspect prior to you finding his body, or were you not sure who he was until after you found his remains?
Well, we had information that we had an idea who that person might be, but we always defer to the coroner's office to make sure that we have a positive identification on the individual. People borrow people's car, people use people's phones. Yeah, so we always want to make sure that we have a positive identification before we make any type of release. So this lady.
Are you able to identify yet if Wes was the person who called 911, who made the initial 911 call?
Still under investigation. If that is the case, he did not use his real name. So, but it certainly will be part of the investigation. But we had an individual called, a male, and he did not use the suspect's name. So.
And one more clarification, because I think I misunderstood. Did you say there was an interaction with first responders
There was an interaction with the firefighters.
when they first arrived on the scene?
Correct.
What was that then?
It had something to do with his vehicle being parked where it was.
Okay.
So, yeah. The gentleman in the blue in the back.
Sir, can you tell us what type of bullets then were used in the snap up to the 3 firefighters? Obviously, you didn't know if they were shot there.
Right. Well, we know that some rifled slugs were used, and a rifled slug is a pretty big projectile. Anybody know off the top of their head how many grains a rifled slug is? Oh,
1 ounce.
yeah. So generally going to be a 1 ounce piece of metal. But we also have some fragmentation of something. So it's still early on. You know, we have some smaller projectiles, and we don't know if that was a fragmentation of one of the rifled slugs or another weapon. Like I said, we are still processing that scene. The firefighters are putting water on it, so we're still processing that. Yes, sir.
Sheriff, can you tell us how sophisticated you think this ambush was? Or do you think this was an interaction that went badly? And one more thing, we were just right outside the scene, and we saw a firefighting vehicle come down with 3 completely flat tires. Were spikes used? Was that part of the ambush?
No, part of once the rounds started to exchange back and forth, and when deputies got on the scene, part of the theory was we don't want him to be able to circle back around and get into either one of the fire trucks or his own vehicle. So deputies disabled the trucks, and they pushed over the suspect vehicle off the side of the mountain.
I mean, that just gives you a sense of how chaotic the moment must have
Oh,
been.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
disabling and crippling their own vehicles so that the suspect that's unseen and elusive wouldn't be able to circle back and use it.
Right, and we just don't, we just don't know in many cases, even if it's in an urban setting in a retail shopping center, how many suspects there are, because we're going to get different information, and we have to be able to evaluate that information to see what's credible, what's not credible. We always want to err on the side of caution, but initial reports were there was more than one suspect. Right here in the.
I just want to make sure I'm completely clear on this. So at the moment, as things stand as far as the weapons go, you're confident that he used a shotgun. It's possible that he used another weapon. You're not absolutely sure, and you don't know what that other weapon would be. Is that right?
Yeah, we're still processing the scene. So we know that there was a shotgun used. Absolutely. 100%. We know that for sure. So.
I'm sorry, this is really asked. Is that like survivalist training or any type of like?
We cannot find any evidence that he has had any type of survivalist training. Now, he did grow up in from what we understand, he did grow up in a arborist family, and that they climbed trees. And we did have reports that he was shooting at first responders via a tree. So he does have experience climbing trees.
I also just wanted to clarify, you had said in the previous press conference, you were talking about misinformation. This is kind of going off the beaten path, but can you elaborate a bit on what that misinformation was? And I guess it felt like you had said families were finding out via Facebook, and I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, so what happened, firefighting and EMS channels here in Kootenai County are not, what's the word I'm looking for?
Encrypted.
They're not encrypted. Law enforcement channels are encrypted. So pretty quickly, there was audio of the help call that came out and was broadcasted on social media. And that is just really, really hard on the families. Had they heard that, and I don't know if they did or didn't, but had they heard that, they would be able to identify their voice of their loved one and just make a chaotic situation more chaotic. So that's one of the.
I just want to be clear, none of the families were notified through social media. They were.
I don't know. I wasn't involved in that part of it. Yeah, I do not know. Lady in the black there.
Sure. In terms of just the timeline, I know that you provided us with one already, but where does that interaction, that first interaction with firefighters fit there? If they have that interaction, how soon after that is there gunfire?
There was an interaction. So they arrived on scene. The initial call was about approximately 1:20. They arrived on scene. I'm going to guesstimate, but I would say probably about 13:50 or about 10 minutes until 2 o'clock. Somebody.
One question I have is, you mentioned when you were doing welfare checks, what were those interactions like? Was the suspect just acting normal? Was there anything off about him at all during any of those interactions? Or was there anything that stuck out for those?
Yeah, he cooperated on each one. He was told that, hey, the owner is asking you to leave. He left. There's certain criteria that we have to meet to be able to engage in somebody's well-being, and he did not meet those requirements at the time. So, yeah. Jeremy?
The shooter's body, is it in a condition where we can determine if there's some drugs or medication in the system?
That'll be part of the autopsy, yes.
Do you know how long he was here in Idaho, and also just, I know this is like a popular recreation area, so how many people, just members of the public, may have been up there doing all of this hiking and just enjoying the day?
Well, it is a popular trail. As far as how many people actually, Lieutenant Klinkefus, do you have any idea of how many people might use it's like 25 miles of trail up there.
Yes, sir. On a Sunday afternoon, there could be a couple hundred citizens up there. Folks use dirt bikes up there. They hike, mountain bike, e-bikes, very popular. I don't know exactly how many were there at that moment. There could have been several hundred on the mountain at that time.
Were they rescued? Like, were law enforcement jumping, helping rescue them, get them out?
There were people that were still coming down the mountain, and this is at approximately 30 hours, or about 3:30 yesterday. So people were still coming off of the mountain.
Sheriff, did the Instagram photo that or the story, that you gave us, was his Instagram deleted? His social media has been wiped now, is that by your doing, or, I mean, what was?
Preliminary information is that we believe it has been wiped, but we don't know by who.
Okay.
Yeah. The lady in the
Yeah,
rust
Sheriff,
color.
can you tell me what sort of role federal agencies played in what played out yesterday? Or would you have been able to do this without them, or?
Yeah, they were very, very helpful in providing assets, providing ground assets, and providing aerial assets. Like I said yesterday, we did have 2 helicopters that had a sniper in them. They were very, very helpful in real-time location of the suspect's phone. That was very helpful. And they were there not to take over anything. Each one of them came up to us and said, hey, what can we do to help? We're here as a resource. So we believe they were very, very helpful.
Sheriff, could you describe those social media posts that are now no longer online? Of course, we've got this Instagram story, but we can't see those posts now.
Right, yeah. Like I said, it's either they've been removed or the account has been deleted. So we don't know. We know at one time it was there, but now we know it's gone. So I don't know what previous posts were there.
Sheriff, has the suspect's family been contacted, and if so, are they cooperating with the investigation at all?
The suspect's family knows of the situation, and they're still processing the situation also. Yeah.
Sheriff, is this the camo outfit that you guys found him in?
No, this is a previous post.
And then has the ATF been able to help you guys pinpoint like when he had that shotgun? Have you guys been able to trace back where he bought that shotgun?
We haven't got there yet, yeah. Like I said, it's still pretty hot up there, but we'll get all that information. We just don't have that as of right now.
Are you more
Concerning
convinced
is it
today
to
that
have snipers in the air when you've got people who are recreating up there coming off the mountain? How do you deal with that?
Well, it does provide a challenge in the rural area like that, but obviously we would not. We want them to identify the target first before they took any action. But it was an active shooter situation, and we have radio traffic where there was an exchange of gunfire between suspect and deputies. So we want to make sure that we have target identification before we use any type of lethal force. So.
Are you more convinced that he acted alone today than you were yesterday? And can you describe, we've heard that the fire was closing in to the scene and like, can you describe? Like,
Yeah, they said that the fire approached within 50 feet, and at that time it was a determination was made that we should probably remove the body and take what we can, and then remove from the area. So that was the decision that was made at the time.
So you're going through a crime scene right now that has been burned over by fire.
Yeah, it's not the perfect situation, but sometimes you have to make the best choice, and that was the best choice at that time. All right, anybody?
So the clarifying question, was he in the tree when he talked to the firefighters who asked him to leave the car? Can you sort of walk us through so to make that up?
We don't believe he was in the tree at the time, but we believe that he engaged deputies from the tree.
And you mean gunfire?
Correct, yeah.
Last night you mentioned that there was a belief that he could be running from spot to spot. Has that been determined that he was moving actively across the mountain?
Still under investigation. You know, we want to make sure that we do a complete search of that area, that there's no guns left over. So still under investigation.
And then, is there anything you want the public to really understand about this, or do you want them to not do, or any kind of notice?
Well, we're still processing the whole situation, but until the Coeur d'Alene Fire Department and the Kootenai County Fire Search and Rescue, until they put out a press release on where to give, I would encourage people to wait for that. There is one particular entity called they just changed their name, but it's called Kootenai County Red and Blue Line. I know them for a fact. I know that the board of directors do not take any money from them whatsoever, but I can anticipate we'll probably have people that are going to take advantage of this situation and try to scam people out of money for it. So I would encourage people to wait until there's an official press release from both of those entities on where to give.
Sheriff, really early in the wildfire investigation, but is there an indication that he lit them in multiple areas, multiple spots on the mountain, or does it seem to have stepped in one spot?
Yeah, right now, we're still trying to contain it. It's not contained at this time. So until we can get it contained and get some investigators up there, then we just don't know at this time.
Sheriff, are there 300 people that report 300 law enforcement involvement?
Yep.
It's a war zone up there. How many shots were fired?
Well, we don't know exactly how many shots were fired at this time. But at the beginning of this event, we knew that it was tragic, and we knew that there were reports that there were multiple shooters. Whether that turns out to be or not, in an operation like this, you always want to plan and prepare for the largest event, and then it's easy to scale down. But if you don't prepare for the larger event and you need more resources, it's not a good situation. So the train of thought is always prepare for a larger event. But in this particular case, an active shooter in a rural area, that just provides a lot of different challenges. And I know that Captain Heil, part of the strategy was that we're going to protect that west side of that mountain because that's where the homes are, and we're going to have probably triple as many personnel on that side. And if he wants to go east, or if he wants to go in the fire, let him. But there's a lot of different dynamics that you have to consider in a rural containment and a rural active shooter. Jeremy, do you have any questions, or do you have anything you'd like to add on how the challenges of what happened?
Not unless there's any specific questions.
Okay.
Sheriff, we often hear about cell phone data being used after crimes to determine locations of people. Were you guys actively, for lack of a better word, pinging him as the crime was unfolding?
Yes.
I hate to, go backwards a bit, but I did see deputies hugging each other and patting each other on the back when I was out there. I'm just kind of wondering what the mindset of your office is right now, and I guess how those first responders are doing after all this.
They're in shock. Yeah, absolutely. It's they're in shock and they're still processing it. Yeah, they're in shock.
Is there anything in particular you guys are doing for them right now?
Well, right now we are going to support them in anything that they need. Obviously getting the families together and to determine how they want to memorialize their loved one, and we will be there to support that.
And a follow-up to my pinging question, sir?
Sure.
Do you have emergency agreements with cell providers for that kind of capability?
Yes. Yeah.
And what do you do to enact that? You just make a call and say, we got to do this, and off we go?
There are certain conditions and requirements that need to be met, but this was certainly one of those cases. Yeah.
How effective were the drone units during this whole process?
The drone units were very effective. Each agency that helped us out had their own drone with different capabilities, and in the end we were able to locate and verify where the body was when with the drones from the different agencies that were here.
Your name, sir?
Jeremy Heil, Captain.
Spell the last name, please.
H-Y-L-E.
All right. We'll take two more questions.
Sheriff, I may have missed it earlier, but what exactly was his connection to Mona Lane?
We just don't know. We don't know. We know that he was a transient here. We knew that he lived here for the better part of 2024. But as far as when he got here, why he was here, why he chose this place, I don't know. He has relatives in the Priest River area, but I don't know why he chose that. We don't find any nexus to anything else. Maybe we'll find more once we do an inventory of the vehicle, but as of right now, we don't know. And then one more question.
Are you able to confirm whether or not the firefighters who were shot were the ones who spoke with him, or are you able to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming out and sharing this story with the public, so thank you.